I'm good to go. It's got a position there, so just
Okay, perfect. You're ready. Take a shot.
take her away.
Good late morning, early afternoon. Good morning. Gary Mizels, I'm the HR Director. Thank you for coming. I want to take just a moment and introduce our speaker today, Dr. Jim Fox. Jim is the Managing Director of Fox Lawson Associates. Fox Lawson has been hired as a consulting firm to work on a compensation classification review of our faculty and staff positions. This kickoff meeting, these kickoff meetings are the culmination of at least about 8 months of work. We issued an RFP through the purchasing department. We received 6, 7 responses, I remember the number. The selection committee reviewing the responses made a recommendation to the president, and Fox Lawson was the successful bidder. So that's why Dr. Fox is here. The selection committee, just so you know, also has now morphed into an advisory committee. And you'll be hearing more about that as we communicate back out to the campus and providing some assistance to Dr. Fox, and he'll be meeting with the advisory committee this afternoon. So without any further ado, Dr. Fox.
Thank you. Good morning. You're a lot more alive than this morning's meeting. So congratulations. All right, there's 2 things I want to do. I want to talk about what we're going to do and talk about the study, so I've got a presentation. And then you should all have picked up a questionnaire when you came in. You can put those aside. I'm going to talk about that in the last, second half of this presentation. It's going to take about an hour, and we'll pause in the middle to see if you have any questions. But first, a little bit of information about who we are so you can kind of get your bearings about what we do. Fox Lawson Associates has been around for a number of years, and all we do is classification compensation studies, a lot of them within universities and colleges, as well as other public organizations like cities, counties, states. In fact, we did some work for the state a couple of years ago for their judicial operations. And I've also done some work in Louisville with their school districts, so I've been a little bit around here. Also, there's a private sector organization that we did some compensation work for in Louisville. But what we do is we study jobs, and then we identify what those jobs should be paid by looking at the marketplace for similar work, and that's what we're going to do here in a nutshell. We've been doing this for a long time, about 25 years, actually a little bit longer than that. 25 years just seemed like a good number to pick. And if you want to, you can go on our website. We've got a number of articles, and you can see who we are and some of our clients and that sort of thing. So feel free to go there if you wish to know a little bit more about who we are. Now, the people that are going to be involved in this study are here on this slide. So I'm the managing director, and what that means is I'm going to be responsible for making sure that we get the study done according to your needs and what you specified you want done, and get it done according to our professional standards. And I'll be meeting with the advisory committee and also at the end of the project with that committee and the cabinet to identify options in terms of how to move forward from our recommendations based on what we find. Now, there are going to be 2 primary people that are going to work on this, Mike Verdorn and Eureka Hampton, and both of those individuals are going to be looking at the job descriptions, reviewing those questionnaires that we're going to have you fill out. They're going to be looking at the market data and trying to put together a system that makes sense. System that makes sense for you as well as the university, and that is competitive and consistent with professional standards. Now, they've got a number of years of experience doing this kind of work. Mike Verdorn specifically used to be a compensation analyst at the University of Minnesota, and so he has some experience on that side of the fence as opposed to, in addition to the consulting side. So I think he brings some good experience in terms of understanding the dynamics of higher education. Both of them have master's degrees in HR, so they are well qualified to perform this work. Chu Young Pan and August Zhu are going to be kind of the back scenes people. So they're going to be making sure that we collect the right salary data, making sure that it's valid data, that we've tested it out, that we're collecting and verifying and validating information, also doing some work with the job descriptions and the analysis of jobs. Chuyun Pan, for example, just finished a study with another HBCU, almost exactly like this study. So she's quite experienced in looking at jobs and making, there we go, distinctions among and between jobs. A couple of the university clients where we perform some kind of compensation work for are listed here. Clark Atlanta, Colorado State University, we're just starting a project there for both staff and faculty. Butler University, which is a private institution in Indianapolis, finished that, both faculty and staff. University of Maine was primarily their hourly employees. They have about 2,000 of them, covering 9 different locations throughout Maine. University of Minnesota, a number of projects there, including their accounting department, their health center with the physicians and docs. And we also did some work with the athletic coaches, all of the different coaches for all the different sports. Pennsylvania State was primarily data processing, information technology jobs. The University of Maryland was purchasing, and Old Dominion was primarily a pay compression study for faculty in that institution, and then Alcorn State was a similar study to here. Now, question is, what are we trying to do? And it really boils down to a couple of things. It's a little bit split. We have staff that we're going to study the jobs quite extensively, and then there are the faculty that we're going to also study in terms of comparatives to other organizations. But the essence of the staff study is we're going to focus on internal equity. In other words, are your job duties and responsibilities more complex, more responsible than another job, or are they about the same? And so we need to look at those kinds of comparisons to identify what is the job, what are the responsibilities, what grade should it be in, what should be the minimum qualifications and the competencies required in order to perform that work, and then what's the right level of pay. So in the end, what we're going to try to do is make sure that all employees are in the right job title to describe their work, that each job title is in the right pay grade based on what they do and what the market is, and they're paid at the right level based on their experience and their job title and the market. Now the faculty, a little bit different, but the same concept. The same concept there being that we want to pay based on rank, assistant, associate, full professor, instructor, and discipline. What is their primary discipline that they're teaching? So those are the objectives. What we're going to do through this process is make sure that your job has the right job title. Now, over the years, what we've experienced in a number of institutions is we find that jobs kind of morph, and sometimes they get new job titles to kind of describe exactly what the person is doing, but then that job changes over time, and so the title doesn't quite describe what they do. Sometimes the job description doesn't describe what they do. And over time, those things get sort of out of whack with reality. So what we want to do is we want to go to every individual, every employee, every staff employee primarily, and say, what do you do? What are you currently doing? What are your responsibilities? What does it take to do your work? So that we can make sure that we have the right title that clearly describes that work, not only the nature of work, but the level of work. That those jobs are equitably aligned within the hierarchy of all of the jobs within this organization, and that you're paid fairly based on that job value and those job duties. Then we want to provide you a system of rules and policies and procedures that you can maintain this system well into the future in the same equitable fashion that it was established. Now for the faculty, we want to make sure that you're paid fairly based on rank and discipline. There's 4 steps to this. I want to talk about each one of the steps, and so that you get a sense of how they are going to proceed. So the first one is study initiation administration. And in this process, what we're trying to do is understand the issues that brought us to this point, some of the things that we want to fix, some of the things that we might not want to fix because they're working fine now. where the university believes it's paying in relationship to the market, what sort of turnover rates there might be, what sort of problems there are in hiring and retaining qualified employees. And so we're going to review the classification system of job titles, job descriptions. We're going to look at the compensation system of grades and ranges to see whether we can identify anything there. And this is just background information. We're also going to talk to an advisory committee to understand some of the issues that they believe are pressing issues that need to be addressed. And then we're going to help clarify a pay strategy. Now, the university has a compensation strategy now which is fairly articulate. In fact, I'm quite impressed among all of the comparisons that I've seen in other universities among pay strategies. This is perhaps the best one I've seen. But there are a couple gaps in that pay strategy that we want to fill in. So we want to fill in those gaps that help us to identify what's the roadmap going forward in terms of classification issues and pay issues, so that you can be assured that 5 years down the road, those decisions are still being made in a consistent fashion and applying to all of the individuals. Okay, so the first step in doing that is to understand what you do. So we're going to have you fill out a position description questionnaire, which we call a PDQ. And that's what you got when you came in. We're also going to review organization charts to make sure that we understand how the jobs fit in each one of the departments, who reports to who. We're going to verify the duties and responsibilities through follow-up questions and interviews. And then we're going to develop a classification structure. Now, this is something that's foreign to most people, but a classification structure simply lays out all of the different job titles, which describes the nature of work and the level of work. So within every occupation, there are levels of work, and what we want to do is describe that accurately and clearly so that you can say, okay, I'm in this occupation, and it looks like there are 3 or 4 levels in that occupation. So if you started at the lowest level, you know that there are 3 more that you could aspire to by capturing or learning new skills or knowledge or education, as the case may be. Most organizations don't have that kind of that logic and structure within their classification structure, and it helps you out in terms of identifying where you can go and where you can advance within the organization, and it also helps maintain consistency and fairness in the classification structure when jobs change over time. Now, we may adopt some new job titles. That does not mean that your job has changed or your reporting relationships have changed. Just that we thought perhaps the title that you have isn't as descriptive as it could be. So we may make some recommendations for job title changes, but just know that it's not changing anything you do. And simply because we change a job title doesn't mean that it is promoted or demoted. It's just a different title. In many ways, what we're doing is we're kind of wiping the slate clean and saying, okay, let's start all over again and see what we have. Make sure that we have the jobs classified correctly with the right job title, with the right minimum qualifications, and they're in the right hierarchy within the organization based on their duties and responsibilities and reporting relationships. So that's the job analysis, and that really applies just to staff, not to the faculty. The next step is the salary survey. And in this step, once we understand the jobs, then we can go and select certain jobs in every department, every function, every level within the organization. Jobs that we think exist in other organizations, other universities, and other private sector organizations. And ask the simple question, what do you pay? So if we go down the road to another university, we're going to say, what do you pay for this job title? And they're going to tell us, this is what we pay. Minimum rate of pay, maximum rate of pay, actual average among current rates of pay to all employees. And then we're going to compare that to what we pay here. Say, is there a difference? What is that difference? Where is it? Is it in all jobs? Is it in just some jobs? And what will it take, what will it cost to get everybody to the right rate of pay? Now, the right rate of pay is several answers. It can be that you're paid within the right pay grade. It can also be that you're not only paid within the right pay grade, but you're in the right spot within that pay grade based on your experience in that job. And so there are a couple of ways that we're going to look at this to identify what the right cost is or what the right implementation option is. We're going to assign all of the jobs to the right pay grade based on their duties and responsibilities, develop those transition plans and costs, and then review that with the university to identify how to go forward. When I say how to go forward, we may find that it is too costly to do it in 1 year. So maybe there will be a multi-year implementation plan. We don't know that yet. We'll know it later on when we get done with the salary analysis and we compare that to the current rates of pay and what we need to do. All right, so when we look at other universities, here are some of the characteristics we use to make sure that we're comparing it to like institutions. Carnegie classification, HBCU land grant, because those are characteristics of your institution. Similar students, budget, and programs. So we're dealing with the same issues. Geographic location is important, although that can be accommodated. Tuition, whether it's state or private, and then whether there are any private sector organizations that have similar jobs. So, for example, some jobs in HR and finance and purchasing and IT, they exist in other organizations that operate in many ways similar to how they operate here. And so we'll want to take a look at that market as well. Now, all of this will be consolidated into a final report, and what you will have is new job descriptions for staff, pay grade assignments for all the staff jobs, pay recommendations, and what I mean by that is there will be a spreadsheet of every person's name, their current job title, what pay grade they're assigned to, and what level or rate of pay we're recommending based on the information and the implementation options. There will be a transition plan in terms of single year, multi-year, or maybe deal with the most severe cases first and the less severe cases next. There's several different ways to do this. There'll be system maintenance policies and procedure recommendations to make sure that it's maintained appropriately. And then we'll present that to Cabinet. Now, it's going to take a while. It took 8 months to get here. We're going to try to do the study in 7. I don't know how that works. So it's pretty sequential. We're starting here in January. If everything goes right, we should be in July when we get to the final report. Now, what that means when I say everything goes right, we're highly dependent on the information you provide in the questionnaire. So if you don't get that to us on time, we can't move forward. Because you see that the salary survey doesn't occur until after we've done the job analysis, and we can't do the job analysis until we've got the questionnaires and understand what you do. So that's the estimate of where we're going and how long it'll take. Here's what's going to happen. The study outcome is going to be based not only on the pay strategy, that document and roadmap that we're trying to identify now that makes sense for the university, our team experience in terms of looking at jobs and understanding what you do, and the market data collected. It's very data-driven. The recommendations then are, of course, subject to management review and approval at the university, board approval, and funding availability. So those are things that are outside of my control. But what we're going to give you is a study result that's logical, makes sense, verifiable, documented, based on good, solid research data. Now, you're going to have questions throughout the study. You'll probably have questions as soon as you leave the room. And the first person to go to is Gary, the HR director. Now, there are many questions that he'll be able to answer for you. However, there may be some that he can't, and if there are questions that he gets that he can't answer, he's going to direct those to me, and I'll get back to him with an answer. And then he'll provide that answer to you. But the first source is to go to Gary to seek whatever answers you need. For example, maybe you want a copy of your current job description. Maybe you think your job title is inappropriate, and even though you have a job title, you're not doing what that job title says. Maybe there's a question on the questionnaire, you're not sure what it means. Go to Gary. Now, there may be some questions that you have that you don't want to share with Gary, your boss, or anybody else at the university, and I can respect that. So what I've done is given you a email address that you can email to me confidentially any questions you want to ask about the study. And I'll usually get to you an answer within 24 hours. I'm not going to share that you asked the question. I'm not going to share that with anybody at the university. This is a confidential email between you and me. So if you have an issue that you need addressed, that you think is appropriate, that I know about, address that in this email to me. Maybe you just want to state some facts. Maybe you want to raise a question. Any one of those things are possible, and I'll get back to you. The only thing I ask you is tell me that you're from Kentucky State University, because I give this same email address to all of my clients for the same kind of question, so I want to make sure that I'm addressing it. So if you send it from a home email address, I just want to make sure that I'm putting it in the framework of this institution. So feel free to ask me that question. Occasionally, I'll get 20 or 30 questions on any particular project, so it's not something that I'm unused to. It happens. So, I want to pause now and see if you have any questions about the process of the study or any part of the study itself. We're going to talk about the questionnaire in a bit, but right now just anything on the study process.
What quantitative metrics do you use to compare our jobs with other jobs?
What quantitative metrics do we use to compare your jobs to other jobs? Well, there's a couple of things that we do. Every one of the jobs that we look at from all the PDQs, we evaluate with a formal job evaluation methodology. It's called decision band method. It's pretty simple and straightforward. But it's a common rhetoric and set of definitions that we can compare like and dislike jobs amongst themselves. Now, when we look at a summary job from another institution, it is going to have some of the same kinds of information, and we can say this looks like it's a this level job, and so we're going to evaluate that job in the same capacity. Then what we do is we collect minimum salary, in other words, the minimum rate of pay for that job that institution pays, the maximum rate of pay, the midpoint if they have a salary range, and then the actual average rate of pay of that individual. Now, this is based on salary only, so it's direct cash compensation. We're also going to look at, I suspect we're going to look at, I guess we haven't really discussed that to any extent, we're also going to look at benefits in terms of the cost of benefits to identify whether there's anything else that we need to take into account for a, what I call a total compensation comparison. Does that help? When all's said and done, we're going to do regression analysis and all of that kind of stuff, so if that helps. Most people don't understand what regression analysis is, so I keep it out till I have the graphs in front of me and I can explain it then. Okay, you will have questions. Everyone does. So, I have the questionnaire in front of me, and I'd like you to have that in front of you as well, because I don't have them on slides. So what I'd like you to do is take that out, make notes if you want. This is an electronic questionnaire.